Thank you. Thanks for
Yeah,
having me.
very good. So yeah, lovely to have you. And one of the final sessions, so we kept you for the best and the last. Um throughout the day, we've been talking about the theme of resilience, focusing on profitability, EBITDA. But as something we discussed earlier, that as startups, it's also very important to sort of how we continue growing and not keeping the eyes off growth. So, and this is something you believe in. So I would like to just start with how you are sort of making sure that the growth is continuing, and it's not just about extreme focus on unit economics for a startup.
Digvijay, I think as a starting point, growth in my view is important for all companies.
Right.
Because if you're growing, it's a signal that your consumer is finding value in the product or service that you offer. Also, if your company is structured well, then growth is your friend in a profitability journey and not your foe. All companies will have fixed costs and variable costs. And if you've structured your company well, the variable costs will be low and you'll have a high gross margin. And consequently, as you scale, you will be able to cover more and more of your fixed costs, eventually hit profitability and then generate large cash flows. So in many ways, I think growth is actually fundamental to, like, if I were to evaluate a company also, I would see
Yeah.
if it's growing well, if it's growing with profitability, that means the company is doing something right for consumers and consumers are paying. That said, I think not all growth is equal. Um, Growth has to come first and foremost out of consumer love, whether your consumer is a business or a retail consumer. If they're choosing you because they like and love your product, there's high repeat in the business, and you're fundamentally offering something of value, and that's driving the growth of the product. I think that's very important. Two, it has to come um, with doing the right thing by all stakeholders that you have in the business, whether it's your suppliers, your employees. And three, it has to come with profitability. I think that those three together form the essence of good growth. And good growth is never at odds with anything fundamentally right for building the business.
So, what are some of these structural changes that you put in place from early on that is helping you do this? Would you like to go a little deeper on that?
First things first, I think having the right unit economics in place for any startup is extremely crucial. Uh, and I have rarely seen that unit economics can be fixed at scale. Uh, in fact, if your unit economics are not strong, typically when you scale, they will only worsen.
Sure.
Um, and scale will certainly not solve it. It's known as unit economics for a reason. It's at a unit level. So scale will only magnify the goodness or badness of the unit economics to start with. So fixing the unit economics is very, very crucial. The second is a culture of frugality in an organization, a culture of cost centricity. And since we are in, World Cup season, um, I really liked something I heard. Uh, one of the cricketing captains say recently. He said, "Fielding in our team is not an aspect of skill; it's an aspect of attitude. Everybody has to do fielding, and fielding is an attitude thing." I think for startups and for the corporate world, the equivalent of fielding is cost centricity. It's something that nobody is in any team because of fielding, and yet every great team that has won World Cups and has been the best team in their time has been phenomenal in fielding. You will never remember a world beating team that was bad at fielding. Similarly, cost is something that, nobody is in the organization to keep cost. Everybody has a day job. And yet you cannot create a world-class company if you're not frugal and cost-centric. So if you have that culture of frugality, cost-centricity, coupled with strong unit economics, then you will always scale to be a highly profitable company in the long run. Then it depends on the business model. Some business models will quickly become profitable. Some will have, fixed costs that need years of investment early on. But eventually, those businesses will become highly profitable if these two things work together.
That's a great analogy for a country like India, where cricket and startups are the two most passionate things. So how has that worked out for you guys? Given that obviously during COVID, you guys saw the huge spike, right? And a lot of transformational changes happened. But obviously, COVID is way behind us. What kind of growth you have seen? What are some of the other changes you have made? Yeah.
So COVID was surely a very transformational period for the company. We saw many sinusoidal curves. We went to zero in each of the lockdowns, and once the lockdowns got lifted, the business surged. But net, I think because of the rapid internal changes and responding to the external situations in a nimble fashion, we exited COVID at a meaningfully higher base than when we entered COVID. And the good part is that we've not just held that base, but I think if I look at COVID exit run rate, we are now at about 2x of that. And if I look at COVID entry run rate, we are almost at about 4 to 5 times that. So net, the business has sustained growth through COVID and post-COVID as well. I think the reason for that is, the basics of the business. It's around quality of service. It's around creating, a price point that the consumer sees value in buying. And it's around having selection and availability that's always improving. It's not rocket science. It's getting the basics right every day, improving quality of service, lowering cost to serve and consequently end user pricing, expanding the selection on offer, and making sure the service is available whenever the consumer wants it. We don't get it right all the time, but the endeavor is, keep compounding the business, be better tomorrow than you are today.
Talking about basics, Urban Company has always been known as a services company, and now you've just ventured into hardware. Take us through why.
So we've recently launched a water purifier under the brand name Native, and that's the context of Digvijay's question. I'll just take a couple of minutes to sort of explain the story behind it. We've been in the category of water purifier repair and service for the last 7 years. We wanted to partner with some of the leading OEMs to sell the filters that are used in these water purifiers. And maybe back in 2017 or 2018, we did approach many of them. Unfortunately, and understandably from their perspective, we were a young startup, so they essentially turned us away, and we could never strike a partnership with any of them. So sometime around 2018, 2019, we decided to make our own private label of filters because the consumer was, it was a consumer pain point. The consumer did not want local filters, so we could not ignore the consumer pain point. So we made our own private label filters under a brand name called True Water. And these filters started to do very well. We never pushed them down to the service fleet. We gave the service fleet the option to either buy these filters or buy from the market. And about 70 to 80% of all filters, all jobs that were happening on our platform were using our filters. Then when COVID hit, our team was thinking about interesting ideas that we could diversify the business in. And one of the ideas that one of the team members suggested was, we already make filters. We already have a brand around the home. Why can't we launch our own water purifier? At the time, it definitely seemed like a fairly wild idea for a services company to get into a product like water purifiers. But generally speaking, we don't have a culture of shooting down ideas immediately. So I told the team that, look, I'm happy to consider it, but I don't want to launch a Me Too product. It has to be truly differentiated. and truly world-class. And if we're able to create a truly differentiated world-class product, I'm happy to launch it and put our energy behind it. We then started spending a lot of time with consumers who were getting our repair and servicing done. And we tested a couple of versions with about 5,000 internal consumers. One big pain point that we heard throughout was, why is it that my water purifier needs constant servicing and constant filter change every 6 to 8 months? We just heard it recurringly. Initially, we ignored it because we felt like this is the truth of the industry. Of course, water purifiers need filter change every 6 to 8 months. There's nothing we can do about it. But we got to a point where we could not ignore it anymore. And we said, okay, let's study the science behind this and let's understand why is it that water purifiers generally need filter changes every 6 to 8 months. And we took on the challenge and we innovated, and we've now launched a water purifier called Native M1 and M2, which actually needs absolutely no servicing for at least 2 years. And we underwrite this with a unquestioned zero cost warranty. So if anything goes wrong, we will come and repair it free of cost over 2 years. So every part that goes in, every filter, every membrane, every RO, everything is covered for 2 years. It's also a smart water purifier, so it's fully integrated into the UC app. You can see the quality of water, the life of the filters left, the water consumption, everything on the app itself. It's beautiful in its design. And in the rare event that anything goes wrong, we know at the back end because of the smart features. So we trigger a notification to the end consumer. We also automatically trigger a service request, and one of our engineers will come in within the day and repair it. We are excited by it. It got launched just last month. It's off to a good start. So let's see. It's an industry with old brands and well-known OEMs. I think it's an innovative product. Let's see if it works.
What more in terms of hardware? Are you looking at other products also eventually in offering any different kind of solution?
I think there will be a set of solutions that we will build which are very synergistic with our service offering. Right. So where either the service gives us a very strong right to win, and or in the end consumer's mind, this is neither a service nor a product. It's a solution. So I'll give you an example of something we're piloting in Delhi-NCR, and that is seeing a lot of traction. Mm-hmm. We have a wall painting business. We have now launched something called wall panels. So these are essentially wooden and polyvinyl chloride panels that get installed in your home. They're new age design. Is it a product? Is it a service? I mean, it requires somebody to come and customize and then retrofit and install it. It's in the territory of what I would call a solution, which has a component of product, component of service. Similarly, we're looking at smart door locks, with the capability of a video doorbell installed in it. Over time, I think it's this solutioning play that we will look to get into, where both the product and the service can come together and create an interesting solution for the end consumer. And our right to win emerges from both our understanding of the Indian home as well as our strong service capabilities.
That's very interesting. So, how big this solutions business could get for you? Like, it's a very interesting mix of what you just said, right?
Tough to say. I think if we do a good job of the execution, it could be very big. But hard for me to put a number on it. I think right now the focus for us is to really, build like killer products in the 2-3 solution categories that we are in. Native water purifiers is one of them. The wall panels that I spoke about is the other. And we'll take it from there.
Talking about back to services, you're also seeing some more competition there. Like for the longest time, I think Urban Company is still the top choice, but there are new companies like Flipkart and a couple of others who are trying out. What are you making of that? What have you seen so far?
I think our space and our industry has always been very competitive. And, outside in, it might appear like it's not as competitive because maybe no company exactly resembles the structure of Urban Company. But the reality is that in every category that we operate in, there is a lot of competition. Like beauty, services as a category, which is one of our anchor categories, has so much organized and unorganized competition. Appliance repair has some of the large OEMs which have their own after-sales service fleets. Cleaning has competition from some of the apartment-based, app services. Painting has all the OEMs offering their own painting service. You just spoke about some of the large product commerce and companies. There has been one of the other large listed companies saying that they want to get into. So
Right.
the space has always seen all types of competition from many different corners. And I think it's a good thing. Like, we welcome competition. I think competition keeps you on your toes. It helps you. Eventually, it's great for end consumers because they have choice. It helps you develop solutions at a faster pace. Overall, we welcome competition.
Going back in time a bit, like when you guys started, there were a couple of other companies also venture funded, were doing different kind of services. In hindsight, what do you think helped urban company stand apart and survive and scale while virtually most of the other rivals at that time have either shut or pivoted or done something else?
Yes, that's true. I think when we started, there was actually a surge of companies in this sector. I remember a traction report which had come out at the time which said that 300 home service companies exist,
Wow.
of which I think about 30 raised angel funding, and something like 8 companies raised like serious institutional capital, like from one of the major VCs, and 2 companies raised north of $30 million. So it was very hyper competitive in the first couple of years. None of us had product market fit. We all started with a light touch, very asset light, technology only platform. And that almost never scales in India, and not just for services. If you look across sectors, the very asset light, low touch platforms have never really scaled, across sectors. It's always been the folks who were willing to get their hands dirty and build a full stack playbook that have been category winners. So we all, including Urban Company, back then known as Urban Clap, started in this light touch avatar. We were the, lucky for us and unlucky for some of them, we fully pivoted our model a couple of years into the full stack model. At the time, it was not clear which model will win, and but none of the other companies did that, and they aren't around, and we are.
Sure. I think we are running short on time, but I still have one more question. I think Urban Company is also expanding internationally. What's the scale of your international operations? What's next there?
Yes, so we've been very selective in a few markets in the APAC region where we have expanded, where the structure of the market, the consumer behavior mimics India to a large extent. So our first market was UAE, which of course has about 50% Indian diaspora. Our next market was Singapore, which is also very Asian in its consumption patterns. And very recently, we are at the cusp of announcing a joint venture into the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
Interesting.
I think we're happy with these 3 markets as well as India right now. I think we have our hands full, to be honest. It's hard enough to run India alone and be focused on India. So with the addition of these 3 markets, I think we have both a large total addressable market to capture, and we have our hands full with like work. So we'll remain sharply focused on these markets for now.
Right. And what is there any update on your IPO plans? Something that pretty much a lot of growth companies were looking at. How are you thinking about it in the current circumstances, keeping all that we discussed on growth, profitability? If you can talk about that.
Yes, I think we definitely have the aspiration to be a publicly listed company in the future. We also are very mindful that going public is the start of a high responsibility journey, and to that extent, it is not a destination but a small milestone in a long journey, and one has to take that responsibility very seriously and be very, very prepared for it, because eventually you're going to take money from, retail investors, and one can't take that responsibility lightly. So we have internally, some goals as far as scale, profitability, and internal controls and internal systems and processes are concerned. We have certain internal benchmarks that we want to hit, which we feel that when we hit that, we will have the maturity and the confidence to say that, now we're ready to go public and we can do justice to that responsibility that we undertake. We're not there yet, but we are working towards it, and I think we'll get there in due course of time.
Okay, Abhiraj, thanks a lot for gracing the occasion today, and that's all, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.